Hello again. Customizing chess openings for tournament player is very, very important. So whenever you play in a tournament, it's very important for you to get the position you're familiar with and you know all the plans and how to play those positions. I mentioned it many times on my previous DVDs. Now, the topic of our discussion will be the King's Indian defense. King's Indian defense is one of the biggest and most popular openings in modern chess theory. I would say Sicilian and King's Indian are two most popular or two bigger openings in chess. So when you play King's Indian, there is one drawback. When you play with black King's Indian, white chooses the variation they're gonna play. White chooses variation, so you have to be prepared for every variation white is gonna play. They're gonna play fianchetto variation or Zemisch or classical or Averbach. Well, there are multiple type of variations, multiple choice white has. So, and we have to be properly prepared. There is not only one way, one right way to play for black against certain variations. Number of variations they have, that white chooses. Black has two or more choices how to respond to them, and based, remember, this is customizing opening for you based on your level and style. When we get to the point where we have a choice which variation to choose, I will describe them both to you. I will show them both to you, and I'm going to explain them both. So and when there is only one correct way to play, then I will point to this also. Now sit tight, and you're about to have a ride throughout the King's Indian defense that will help you to get a reasonable position with a clear plan for the middle game. Variations in King's Indian are hardly connected. So we start in a random order, and I would start with, for example, with the fianchetto variation of the King's Indian defense. T4, knight f6, c4, g6. Now either knight c3 or knight f3, it wouldn't make any difference. Bishop g7, g3, castle, bishop g2, d6, and white plays knight c3 or the castle. So let's go with knight c3. And here black has multiple choices. Well, I will do in every variation where black has two or more choices, I will at most show you two continuations that will give you an easy game. So I'm not gonna go with the variation knight c6, which is one of the main moves, and when white castles then a6, because there's a lot of theory here and very complicated plans. So what I would do, I show you two other continuations in this variation of the King's Indian. One of them is bishop g4, and when white castles, then knight to c6. And here is the plan for black. Every time black plays bishop g4, it has only one purpose, this move, to eliminate the knight and put some pressure on white's d4 square. So in this position, if white plays h3, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, and black goes knight to d7, having reasonable position, because d4 pawn is hanging. If white goes d5, then knight c to e5, attacking the bishop on f3 and pawn on c4. Or if white plays e3, then black goes e5, and you see that white cannot hold d4 pawn, so they're gonna have either take on e5 or push d5, which leads to a good position for black after knight to e7 and f5. This is reasonably good position for black. Now, if white takes on e5, then black can simply take with the knight on e5, and they also have no problems in this position. Black is active. Remember, in King's Indian, black's main problem is space disadvantage, and that's another reason why move bishop g4 makes sense. So bishop g4 is something that you can learn variation in practically in several minutes, but then of course you need to play it many times and get some knowledge and some experience in it. Well, the other variation in this position is c6. c6 is more ambitious, and we going for some kind of a long-term counterplay. White castles, and now we go queen to a5. Now, what's the purpose of this move? Queen a5. Black has two main ideas here. Black first wants to swing the queen to on h5 and play possibly bishop h3, which suits the King's Indian defense, where black wants to get rid of some minor pieces. So the other plan is, if white goes, for example, h3, then black has to use different plan. After move h3, queen h5 makes no sense, because g4 will send black's queen back, and no sacrifice on the g4 square will make any sense, because 2 pawns is not sufficient compensation for sacrificed piece, and that's going to be bad for black. So h3 is one move, e4 is the other move. It's two main moves, h3 and e4. Of course, it doesn't mean that white cannot play any other move. For example, if white plays bishop d2, this is not a good move, then black is obviously going to go queen h5 with the idea of playing bishop h3, and if white goes e4, then bishop g4. Pin on the knight on f3 it may be very painful. So what black will want to play, knight d7 and c5 in the future, trying to eliminate the d4 pawn, which allows black to play knight e5. This is just as a plan. Well, in this position, main moves, as I already explained, are e4 and h3. Now, on h3, we play bishop to e6. And bishop to e6 move is very well analyzed, and even if you get the games from database played with this variation, you're going to see that black had reasonable results. Black had very good results. It's not your typical King's Indian move, bishop e6. All of a sudden we're attacking the c4 pawn, which cannot be protected with b3 because queen takes knight. So, and c4 pawn can be protected three different ways. One is queen d3, the other is knight d2, and a third move, which is a lot sharper, is simple d5. Well, actually, it's not that simple. Now, let's go through these moves. On queen d3, actually, I've played this position number of times and never white got any advantage here. I even played this position against world champion, at that time world champion Anatoly Karpov. I played queen to a6, and even here white got no advantage at all. Attacking c4 pawn, and after white played b3, I went d5, now attacking c4 pawn again, and obviously white does not want to take on d5, because after queen takes d3, ed, and knight takes d5, white simply has awful pawn structure. So the move after queen a6, b3, and d5, move is knight e5. Of course, white can also play knight d2, but then black simply plays rook d8 and has very, very strong position with a pressure in the center. So knight e5 is the move, and now knight b2 d7. Well, that's how my game against Karpov continued, and I could say that white got absolutely no advantage. It was easily equalized by black, and game shortly ended in a draw. C takes d, queen takes d3, knight takes d3, knight takes d5, and bishop to b2. Well, now of course black has to be very careful and not to take the pawn on d4, because white wins the piece after knight takes d5, attacking the d4 bishop, and if bishop takes b2, knight takes e7, leading to a winning position for for white when they play knight takes b2 next move. So in a position on the board here, I just played knight takes c3, bishop takes c3, and now important move that serves more than one purpose is rook f8 to d8. Now we're preparing attack of d4 pawn, and also if white goes knight f4, then black goes knight f8. You see, they protect the bishop on e6, because obviously black doesn't want to have double pawns on e file. And after knight f8, if white takes the bishop, then black is gonna increase the pressure on d4 pawn, and black is gonna have very good game. So what happened in this position, white played rook a to c1, a5, knight f4, knight f8, rook f to d8, a4, and black has good position. Game ended in a draw in very few moves. And when superior player offers you a draw playing with white, that means he definitely knows he has no advantage, maybe even slightly worse. So this game ended in a quick draw. So now let's go back into the position, where white played queen d3. So queen d3 move obviously after bishop e6 does not give any advantage to white. So the other move is knight d2, protecting the c4 pawn. Then we go queen a6. I played this also against Brazilian Grandmaster Sonia Neto, and white played b3. He has to protect the c4 pawn. Well, b3 is the one move that my opponent played. The only option he had is to go d5. But after d5, black definitely has no problems. We can simply go bishop d7 or even c takes d, and now bishop to d7. Now you see that black is going to play rook f to c8, rook c8, and then play bishop to e8 and knight to d7. Black has very playable and solid position. Then you go knight d5 or knight c5 or knight e5. Believe me, there were games played with it, and black is okay there. So in the game, my opponent played b3, and then after d5, again, this is my position against Sonia Neto I played, and also current women world champion Zsuzsa Polgar. Polgar played against me c5, and obviously she got no advantage because I went bishop to f5 followed by knight d7, and black is doing fine. And my Brazilian opponent played bishop to b2 and also got no advantage after rook d8. So the only move now we did not look at, well, white has to protect the pawn on c4. We didn't look at queen b3, and there is a reason for it, because after b5, white may be in immediate trouble. So only move is d5. That's probably the main move in this position. Well, after d5, black must take, and obviously white is not going to take back, because after knight takes d5, they simply lost a pawn. So after c takes d, move is knight d4. Now, here is what I would like to tell you about this position. Bishop d7, I like bishop d7 move. Now if we take on c4, obviously white wants to play bishop takes b7. I like in this position bishop d7 move, and after cd, rook to c8. I think this is equal position, and black has interesting possibilities here. Bishop, don't develop bishop on a6, knight on a6. That's not a very good position on a6, because when knight goes to c5, white will always have a threat of playing a3 and b4. I like playing in this position. If white plays, for example, bishop e3, I like going bishop to e8. And this is a slower way to develop the b8 knight, but knight has a lot more future going to d7. For example, rook c1, knight to d7. You see, now we can go knight e5 and possibly knight c4, and knight from b6 go to c4, or maybe to a4. Those are very interesting possibilities. And you have to mention that bishop on g2 is not very active, and black has no weaknesses at all. And even though white has more space, white also, when you have more space, you're overly exposed in some cases. And this may be one of those cases. And when black goes knight e5, knight c4, or knight b6, knight c4, black has very good positions. You can take my word for it, or try to refute my assessment, my evaluation. So the other possibility, well, when I said I like playing bishop d7, what I mean by that, after cd, knight d4, bishop d7, what I mean by that, that is also a very good move here, very playable. D takes c. White plays bishop takes b7, now knight d7, and probably black is going to take on, white is going to take on e6, because h3 pawn is hanging in future. Pawn takes on e6, bishop takes a8, and rook takes a8. When I was doing the introduction, I told you that in some variations in King's Indian, there are 2 or more equally good opportunities for black. Now, I don't know which one is better for black. I think they are both very much playable positions, and it's a matter of taste. Here, in my opinion, black has full, complete compensation for sacrificed exchange. Well, first of all, they didn't sacrifice as much because the black has knight and a pawn for a rook, and later when they go d5 or possibly queen f5, d5, pawn center may compensate this slight material deficit. You can, again, you can go through in a database. When I don't want to bring you games from database and go through games. That's something you should do by yourself. My task here to attract your attention to certain points and tell you what I like and what I'm standing behind, and then you're gonna pick up these games and they will prove my point. So this position is also okay. So now, going back to the critical position where we played queen a5, and I said that there are 2 ambitious moves for white. Moves like queen c2, obviously they are not going to do anything for white. Queen c2 or queen d3 or bishop d2, they are all passive moves, and they going to be treated in the same fashion, with queen h5 playing bishop h3 and knight d7, bishop h3 and knight d7. So this is going to be very good position for black. So only the most ambitious move in this position is e4. And now the best, once e4 played, we gotta go bishop g4, and again this move serves 2 purposes. I explained it earlier. First of all, we want to get rid of our bishop, and then when we develop our knight, our bishop is not going to be locked in on the back rank. And secondly, possibly weaken the d4 pawn. After the bishop g4, white practically must play h3. Why? Because on bishop e3, black can play queen h5, and this pin may be very annoying. So that's why h3 is probably the best move. It has to be the best move. Only other thing you have to know here, what to do on queen b3. On queen b3 you go queen b6, and well, black's goal to equalize, and I think they did here, If black wants to take on b3 and then go knight a6 and knight b4, and if white takes on b6, then black opens the a file and they are doing fine. White does not have anything black doesn't have. On e5 we can go knight d7, and white got no advantage after the opening. So now let's go back to the main h3 move. We play bishop takes f3, and again best move is bishop takes f3. Why not queen takes f3? Queen takes f3, black will play knight to d7, attacking d4 pawn. And if white protects bishop e3, then we can go queen to b4, attacking c4 and b2 pawns. And after queen e2, when black goes knight b6, all of a sudden we see that white has big problems protecting their c pawn, and they have immediate problems. If they go c5, we play d takes c, followed by knight c4, and white is in trouble here. Because on any a3 move, which is simply either take on b2, or which is even better, go queen b3. Now b2 pawn hangs, bishop, dark square bishop is under attack, black has great position.